Hello everyone and welcome to the fourth episode on Shadow of the Colossus. In this video I will talk about the different studies, approaches and academic discourses on the game. By the end of the video we will have an idea of what others have said about Shadow, and I will explain why I think these discourses are relevant. So let's take off then. Shadow has attracted the attention of academics and non-academics in the form of reviews, critical analysis and personal reflections of the game. One of the first academic accounts on Shadow appears in Miguel Sicard's study of violence and evil in computer games. In it, Sicard uses Hannah Arendt's concept of the banality of evil to explain the use of computer games to explore and perform unethical actions. Sicard argues that Shadow is one of the best examples of the use of the banality of evil, as it is a game in which players will make unethical decisions without understanding them as ethical choices. This approach is extended by Sicard in his following book, The Ethics of Computer Games, in which in Chapter 6, Sicard uses Shadow to explain two concepts regarding ethical game design. One of the concepts is close ethical game design and the other subtracting ethics. First, in a close ethical game design, the game creates an ethical experience in which the player cannot implement her values beyond the constraints of the game. The game is designed to create a set of possible actions with different moral weights, without the possibility of contributing with her values to the game itself. The second concept that Sicard discusses is subtracting ethics, which is the process of creating a game that has ethical choices made by an ethical agent at the core of its fictional universe by means of gameplay mechanics. Subtracting ethics creates a moral experience, but leaves the ethical reasoning to the player, thus respecting their presence as moral agents in the networked ethical system of computer games. A year later, in 2010, Oliver Pérez-Latorre presented the first extended study of Shadow of the Colossus. In it, he focuses on the enunciative dimensions of the mechanics and the narrative of computer games to decipher their message. After a thorough analysis, Pérez-Latorre concludes that Shadow is a tale about love, futility and repetitive failure. This same approach is used by Nicolas Fortuño in 2011, who coins the term futile interactivity. The term was developed by Fortuño while discussing the power computer games give the audience over important parts of the narrative. This control over the story may eliminate the tension between the reader's desire and the outcome, what he labels dramatic necessity, which might deprive the story of its emotional power. However, computer games have the capacity to subvert and alter that expectation using futile interactivity. The concept refers to scenes in which the player is given agency with a task that seems accomplishable despite being designed to be mechanically impossible. In the case of Shadow, the game uses multiple moments of futile interaction to give the tragedy its emotional power. But let's clarify that better with an example. Fortuño's first example is the moment that Colossus is defeated and the player is given agency back. Then, trying to escape from the black tendrils, he or she is inevitably caught and penetrated by them. The reason behind this design has to do with the way the player will experience that moment. Using futile interactivity, designers can create dramatic necessity as they play with the player to believe there is something to do there, a way to dodge the tendrils, as this allows the player to take control back. But Shadow uses the player's agency and its manipulation to increase the sense of entrapment by his quest. Futile interaction is a central mechanic in Shadow's meditation on the medium and the EBT conversation. It also relates directly to Wonder's quest and the player involvement and the experience of the EBT. From the beginning of the quest, the player's agency is futile. There is no power over the EBT. The capacity to choose and decide on the transgression is an illusion, a deception construct through the possibilities and limitations of the medium. Furthermore, we are not forced to commit the EBT. We can choose to leave the game or simply not to progress in it. But the attraction of the possibility to do something impossible outside the game world and yet forbidden is too captivating. This tension, or futile attempts to escape the temptation of the transgression, the obsession of our avatar, and our irreversible fate, structures the story and the gameplay. Finally, in 2015, Tom Cole proposed an analysis of Echo, the prequel of Shadow, and Shadow from cognitive theory, with a focus on emotions. In Cole's article, he argues that both games use different tools to arouse curiosity and mystery to increase the player involvement. The player is encouraged to create an emotional bond with the game and especially with their only companions. Different tools such as animation, color, sound, and control mechanics are implemented to increase the emotional impact of the story and the relations built within the game world. These different approaches to Shadow show not only an extended interest in the game, but also the variety of disciplines that have studied the experience it builds. Nevertheless, it is interesting that none of them refer to each other. This is even more relevant as many of them are not only compatible but will have benefited from each other. In the following episodes, I refer to them as the combination of mechanic and narrative dimensions are key to comprehend the main tension in Shadow. My approach benefits from these previous engagements as they provide useful terminology and mechanics-focused studies. I build on them, their methodologies, and attempts to comprehend how Shadow works and what it aims to transmit. They lack, however, a holistic aim to understand the overall tension of the game, and moreover, Shadow's relation to its cultural context. Therefore, to fill in this gap in the literature, I propose a focus on the design of the game, its engagement with the EVT, and the way affection and emotion is modulated by its mechanics, which I explain in the following videos. Thus, the next video will be the first actual look into the game. I propose a simultaneous and combined study on what Shadow is telling through how is it telling it. In other words, I will be focusing on the game's mechanics and the narrative to not only understand how Shadow is experienced, but also what is that this experience is communicating, telling us about the ABT and 21st century Japan. As always, thank you very much for your time. Drop a comment if you like, or if there's anything you would like to ask or add, and see you in space. Astro Cats. Something for your